Welcome back. Happy Sunday, everyone. I love going live. Hello, hello. Come into the room. As you can see by the title, we're going to be talking about how billionaires think and why NP entrepreneurs. You should know if you're trying to be an NP entrepreneur, particularly if you practice in derm. If you're an NP entrepreneur or thinking about making that leap into dermatology and aesthetics, you need to start thinking like a successful billionaire. So today's video is inspired by one of my favorite shows, Shark Tank. One of the sharks has been on there for 21 years, Robert Herjavec. He recently posted a video on his YouTube channel on how billionaires think. He answered 20 of the most popular questions, and I'm going to apply the questions and the answers to us, NP entrepreneurs. So whether you're trying to land your first job in dermatology, build a thriving practice, or create passive income, these insights will be really helpful for you to move strategically and stay ahead of the curve. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Dr. Kimberly Madison, a doctoral nurse practitioner, and I specialize in dermatology, nursing education, and research. I'm building my business, Mahogany Dermatology, nursing education, and research right now during an 8-week intensive business coaching program with I'm taking you on that journey. Today, we're taking a little bit of a break from that. So we'll talk about some of those questions that Robert answered. We'll talk about the answers, how I think they can apply to what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go. And then at the end, we'll do what we do every week, because this is a continuing conversation. If you don't know, I've been coming on YouTube for over a year now. I usually go live. I do these batch content days like I'm doing right now. I'm going to try to squeeze in two. I have an interview at 4, so I'm Central Time. So I have an interview at 4 o'clock. I'm thinking I won't make it. I'm thinking I'll probably get one done, do the interview, come back at 5 o'clock, do the next one. But these are continuing conversations during this Nurse Practitioner Entrepreneur Diary series. So it started off as me sharing my journey, but it's become me answering your questions. And me answering your questions has become the foundation for my business, Mahogany Dermatology. And so I can only thank you. And by the way, before I forget, I want to thank you all for your support. We're up to 7,000 views. I'm telling you, all these little strategies that I've been learning, that I've been sharing with you, have helped so much. Man, and my numbers are going up much quicker than they were before. And I tell you, the numbers are great, right? We love data. But you don't have to wait to get 10,000 followers or 1,000,000 followers before you can solidify yourself as a key authority in any topic, right? I told you one of my favorite books is Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley. It's literally the framework I've been following. It's the framework I'm applying to my business. And I don't even have 10,000 followers in total across all the platforms, but my opportunities, they've been wonderful. Opportunities that didn't rely on someone hiring me, didn't rely on me waiting for someone to teach me everything they know. Literally, it is all with faith and staying consistent and persistent. So if you don't know, one thing I strongly believe in is that if you are in the business of caring for other people, you have to be in the business of caring for yourself. And so in addition to talking about business and my own journey, we always talk about health and wellness, not because you care about my health and wellness. I'm hoping by me taking the time to show that it comes first, and to talk about, kind of some of the things that I'm doing, that you use this time to go to your own calendar and say, hey, look, let me schedule some time to make this appointment, to put in another workout, to buy some fresh produce, whatever it is you need to do that involves your health and wellness. I'm hoping that when I take the time out to do this, it's just a friendly reminder on how important it is for all of us. And the best way to give advice is to live it. So we start the top of the show with a devotional. I have one right here and ready to go. Then we'll do our main topic. And then for those of you who like the weekly updates, we'll finish the episode by then, okay? I am going to check on live, make sure that you can see me, and that, because I noticed there's even watching you, I see there's a delay. You know what always messes me up? Anytime I use Zoom throughout the week, I feel like it slows me down. It slows down the computer. And it has been a while since I've deleted. I need to clear up my computer too. So let's see if you can. I don't know. I think it's a little bit there, but I'm sure you'll tell me. So let's see. I just want to pull up the live so I can make sure that we have good quality control. Oh, there it is. So. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, good. I don't see too much of a delay on there. So great. Let's get into our I did all that just to go to the our devotional. Okay, so here we go. When you place your hope in Jesus, you never grieve in vain because the God who is now is also the God who will be forever. And he is constantly advocating and acting on your behalf. That's why no matter what you face, you can hold on to this hope. Jesus can turn your setbacks and sorrows into setups for good and his glory. God can take your pain and use it for his purposes. He can make a way through desert seasons. He is your source of strength and your refuge in times of trouble. Nothing is impossible for God. So today, continue to draw closer to him and look for evidence of his faithfulness. As you intentionally pursue God, look for ways to worship him like David did. And then we have a little prayer. Lord Jesus, help us follow you to the edges of society where people are lonely, suffering, and in great need. Let us give freely with appreciation for all you've given to us at no charge. In your name, amen. If you're here and I see we have a visitor, don't be shy. Say hi in the comments. So yeah, let's get started. So let's talk about, I think you're all very familiar with Robert. Whenever I think back about my entrepreneurial journey, I always think it just happened recently, like with the pandemic. Then I realized it goes back to when I started in P school. Then I realized it goes back to even being a kid and seeing entrepreneurial traits and habits and businesses in my own family. And this show has been, he said it's been on for 21 years or so. And I remember when it first started. And yeah, even before I even was thinking entrepreneurially, I was fascinated with Shark Tank. I've always loved Survivor. But there was something about Shark Tank with people just having an idea and running with it. Even though, and I always would say, like, even if you don't win the money, you won. You won just by being on the show. The show, but even in the like now, of course, it's a big deal. But in the beginning, it was, before it gained popularity, you think, oh, they came this far, they didn't win, but they got that far on national TV, so they were winners. I think now people recognize that, but back then, it probably came as a surprise. But love the show. I love that Robert's on. So we're going to do two things today, which I do with you. As I'm learning, I'm sharing with you. So we're going to talk about what Robert talked about in his video, the questions he's answered, the trends and types of questions you see coming from entrepreneurs, right? The content. But then I want you to always take a step back and look at what he's doing. Okay, so he's a businessman, right? There's a lot of business people who have obtain a high level of success and notoriety. And you see them coming on platforms like YouTube and social media to now elevate their brand. Brand is so important. Even as a nurse practitioner, you don't realize you have a brand, but you do. The problem is you have a brand and you're not owning it. You're not taking control of it. So whether you want to be a business owner or not, entrepreneur or not, and shout out to the physician assistants of color. I had the honor to be on one of their webinars this week where they had some people in finance talking about finance and the importance of investment and owning a business, which I told you, you have your 4 quadrants. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you have to go back to some of the other videos. The book Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. You've got self-employed and employees on one side, and you have investors and business owners on the other side. You want to be on that side where you can make money in your sleep. And Robert and all the other entrepreneurs, they demonstrate this, right? So you think that you are just caring for people, you're just in the patient care business, but you're selling yourself. You're selling your skills, your clinical judgment, your knowledge, your confidence. So when you walk in that room, they're already looking at you. If you started in healthcare young, someone has inevitably asked you how old you are. How long have you been doing this? I can't remember how many years I had to answer that question. So you're selling who you are. Can you sell your confidence so this patient believes that you're an authority when it comes to healthcare? 2, you're now giving me a diagnosis, recommendations, and treatments. Can you sell me why this is important? So you're in the business of selling and convincing people. You don't necessarily recognize that. Now you have the skill set. You have the skill set. That's why nurses and nurse practitioners are one of the best people to be in business, to partner with. This is what me and Dr. Farah Laurent talked about when she interviewed me on her show, The Nursing Dose with Farah. You can find that. It's even on my channel. One of the benefits of some of these platforms, you can cross post. So even if you're a guest on someone else's show, I always want the content. I always ask for that. That's time I spent. I want it on my platform. I might keep all their branding and all that other stuff, but if it looks good, if it doesn't sell, I'm going to change it, which you can see in the thumbnails this week. I changed the thumbnails for Claudia Garcia's show and Farah's. I changed it, and Demetrius. And I'm hoping they take that as a compliment and they take those ideas and run with them, right? We're going to do a whole episode on consumer psychology, and your thumbnails, your flyers, your emails, all those things matter. At the end of the day, you know what the main message of that is? People, I need to see your face. It takes you 20 hours to make a flyer. It takes you 2 minutes to make a video. And you know what? You're going to get more engagement with that video. I'm getting off track. So Robert, branding. So he has a business, right? Sorry about that. Looks like somebody came. The whole morning, no barking, right? So brands. So all of these big people, they're now selling their brand. There's a few things. Now with Robert, you know, if the show's been on for 2 decades, there's a chance it might be coming, either it's coming to a close or the numbers are dipping or he's thinking of moving on. Whatever the case is, you're always going to see really successful people go in 2 directions. Owning their brand. Now they got a channel. Now they're sharing their intellectual property, which we've talked about on here. 2, writing books, because those books get more numbers over time than just doing one thing, right? Even though all those things can still add up. But if you look and pay attention, you're going to see some of your most biggest celebrities getting into those 2 lanes, owning their brand, using a social media platform, and getting into books, which is one of the parts of the 5 framework of becoming a key person of influence by Daniel Priestley. In the word authority is the word author. When you write, before you can write, you read to make sure you're up to date. When you read, you automatically become abreast of the trends, the gaps. I talk to you about gaps all the time, all these consultation calls. I focus on all the gaps, on how you can find your place, right? When you find the gap, you can find a path to success in your business. So Robert came on. He had 20 questions. I took out some of them that I think it would be helpful for all of us. So the first question, how do you find work-life balance, right? We're all talking about that. I talk to you all the time about, if you're an entrepreneur, time and capital are limited. They're limited for you to manage your life and your business. You know what he said? He said it doesn't exist. And in some ways, it's really assuring to know, like, look, I'm trying all these things and I'm still struggling with that. And to hear someone who has reached his level of success say, look, it's not possible, which means, like, it's okay if you're still struggling with that. It's okay if you don't find it, because one, it sounds like it's temporary. He said not in the beginning. And also what you're doing isn't wrong. It's part of the journey. And another thing, you know, you think of the goal, like he even talks about his own epiphany, like he was seeking money, right? A lot of us start that way. He was seeking like a certain figure of money. And in his conversations with Charlie Munger, good friends with, oh, man, his name is right there, Warren Buffett. Apparently Charlie's not really into money. He's more into the freedom that it brings. And so Robert recognized this importance too, right? And so just to be clear, Robert's a billionaire in Australia. That's why he said he moved there. He's still trying to become one of the billionaires in America, but he's still, as far as I'm concerned, that's all the same. But the work-life balance, it's not going to happen. But what are some things you can definitely do? You can automate your life, right? Bill pay, investments, and delegate. What are the things only you can do? And what are the things that you can pay someone else to do and support their business, right? Groceries, cleaning your home, washing your car, landscape. These are all things I delegate very easily. Does it cost money? Yes, it costs money. Sometimes you might be surprised at how little money it costs, but on the back end, look at what it's giving you, right? We all are given 24 hours in a day. Time is the great equalizer. You can look back in our history and see all these ways where different communities, particularly my community, has been disenfranchised. But when it comes to time and tech, they are the great equalizers. We all are given 24 hours. And when it comes to tech, because it's so changing so rapidly, at any point in time, you can be at the beginning of something, which is what we're going to talk about later. So when it comes to work-life balance, It doesn't exist, but there are things you can do to get more, to be able to maximize those 24 hours. What kind of business should you start? A lot of you probably have this question, right? Maybe you see people in med spas making really fun videos, and you're like, yeah, but I don't think that's for me, right? So you're like, what kind of business can I start? Well, one, remember, your only business, just because you take care of patients, doesn't mean that's the only business you can run. You can leverage your expertise in so many ways. One of the videos I have in my playlist, How to Get Your First Job in Dermatology, are all the surprising ways you can specialize in dermatology. But just remember, you have intellectual property, expertise. You have experienced things that people have to Google. And even when they Google it, they can't trust it. They don't know if it's credible. And they still want to come to you and look you in the eye and say, hey, what's been your experience? People will pay for that knowledge. They know it. You need to believe it. So when it comes to starting a business, it doesn't have to be directly related to treating patients. It also doesn't have to be in healthcare, because you have so many skill sets when it comes to communication. What do you call it? What do they call it when there's like de-escalation, communication, uh, putting teams together, ideation, design, workflow. I mean, the list can go on and on. Those are transferable skills. But my favorite business, if you follow this channel, you know, are B2B businesses. I've told you my story recently in my last video. I went in a room, just like all the other NP entrepreneurs, wanting to do this thing and treat patients, take care of their problem. I spent enough time in that room and I realized all those NP entrepreneurs have problems. I decided just to help them with their problem. You can do the same thing. Once you find yourself in community and you find out what our pain points are, obsess over that pain point and learn how to master solving it over and over and over again. If you're in that room with all those entrepreneurs, you already have a target audience. Okay, third question. How do you find a good mentor? I'm so glad he brought that up. We talk to you all about mentorship all the time. And what someone pointed out is everyone knows mentorship exists, but they don't know how to be a good mentee. I think it was that guy I was listening to on, it's a podcast on like leadership. I'll have to look it up and tell you guys, but it's like Big Think or something like that. And he was like, he worked with all these big businesses and they have mentorship programs in place because we all recognize the value of mentorship. You know, those of us who have made that mind shift, we know that we cannot make it alone. We recognize when we have people on our team, if we have people who work for us, they're not going to be able to be as successful without being part of community. Because your first question isn't your last question. So even if you come to me, you send me an email, we get on a video call, you go to some event, you pick somebody's brain, right? You're still going to have another question at some point. And when that happens, you need to be in a community so it can be addressed. So how do you be a good mentor? Well, I loved it. He said, you have to look for mentorship. That means it's an action and it's intentional. They're not going to come knock on your door, although I knock on your screen and say, hey, you know, we're here to help you. But you have to go out. But even though I come and I say, look, I'm here, you have to know how to communicate. You have to know how to tell me what your problem is. You have to know how to tell me how I can help you, right? Because anybody can help you open a door, give you some water, give you directions, tell you the time. That's helping you, right? But only you know exactly what kind of help you need at this time. And that's what Robert said. When it comes to looking for mentorship, you have to look for someone who can give you advice that applies to where you are right now, right? So you can watch a lot of YouTube videos, and one thing, it can kind of separate. It can kind of create this like keep you in analysis paralysis, especially if you only listen to people who have achieved great success. Every time you listen to those people, you're going to feel further and further away from them, as opposed to recognizing that they're just like you and they just had an idea. They act on that idea and they were able to achieve success, but they're just like you. So when it comes to finding a good mentor, you have to look for it. You have to be intentional, and then you have to know what it is you're looking for. I was listening to the Elite NP. I told you I listened to that on Mondays when I run. And I told you every episode for the last 5 years, they're all the same. I don't care who's on the other line with him. The questions are all the same. His response is all the same. And the struggle this last episode was he asked her one question. He did it a couple times. And every time she failed to answer the question, she went on a whole different tangent. She went backwards. And instead of just answering the question, if you don't ask the right question, you won't get the right answer. And that's the same with ChatGPT. If you've had a chance to use it, then you know what I'm talking about. Number 4, motivation and consistency. How do you stay motivated? So this is a little bit of Robert and a little bit of someone else posted this online somewhere, that motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes, just like memory. That's why I never trust anybody who doesn't write things down, because the memory is fleeting. I don't care how young you are, how good you are. If you don't write it down, there goes my confidence. Motivation comes and goes, right? But consistency, you can consistently set a time on your schedule. You can consistently block off time, consistently say no to certain things and opportunities. You can be consistent in your actions, even when your motivation, which is a feeling, fades, right? It fluctuates. So I thought that was excellent. He said a great entrepreneur has the ability to go from failure to failure without any lack of enthusiasm. When you make this, if you're, look, entrepreneurship's not for everyone. I used to think it was, but I've come to realize that it's not, and that's okay. One distinguishing factor between people who are cut out for this and people who aren't is that enthusiasm. You don't need to be motivated by other people, particularly if you have a vision and that vision aligns with your purpose. Once that happens, once you get that, it's like a puzzle piece. Man, you just go into a whole different gear. I can't even explain it to you. It's a whole different operation. Your confidence, especially if you understand what you're doing, if you've done some research, you've looked at the numbers, it's hard to not be confident about what you have experienced, what you've heard, what you've learned. It's really hard. And then if you're getting messages from God and you're getting all these confirmations and signs of assurance, it's really hard for someone else to come and tell you otherwise. There's no even time or desire to even look and see what other people are doing. Because I know some people say, oh, but when I look at other people, it makes me feel like this, or I think I can't do it. I don't care what they're doing. It has nothing to do with what I'm doing. If you focus your attention on your audience, your purpose, and what you're here to do, how you're supposed to carry that out, if you do that, then after you've done that, tell me if you have any time or energy to think about and worry about what other people are doing. I'll wait. I don't think you will. And I love that he mentions failure. I've talked to you all the time. One of our biggest problems as clinicians is that we're in the business of not failing. We literally get paid not to fail. We do research to find out ways to avoid failure. We have a low risk tolerance. Sorry, it's school time. They always come out. We have a low risk tolerance of failure. And so in entrepreneurship, you're going to fail. That is actually the fastest way to find out what you can do and what's going to work. What's it like? Execute fast so you can fail fast, right? Instead of sitting around trying to figure out perfect ideas that don't exist, it's better to just get out there and do something. That's how he started this whole video. What should I sell? He's like, sell anything, or I think it was him. Just sell something. Once you start selling something, right, your audience is going to tell you what they like, what they want to hear from you. You're only going to do what your audience wants to hear from you, right? Just like me, you can go back to all my videos. It started off with me talking about what I think is important. But when you guys keep coming to me asking the same questions, just like Justin answers the same questions, he started to cater his services, his offers to the clients, right? There's a lot of points of entrepreneurship, right? Now, on the podcast, he has targeted a lot of early entrepreneurs, and by early, let's say before they started their business, right? They're in the contemplation stage, right? We have some people who are just thinking about it, to people who just started month 1, 2, 3. I would say he kind of encompasses that right there in the contemplation to year 1. A few times he's had people who have been in business a little bit longer, but he's really nailed that audience. Now, I think when he came in, I don't think he was thinking that, but that's who's been attracted to him. And he has learned how to speak our language, how to identify what we need, and he has nailed it in multiple ways, right? And you can see the progression of even his advice, his services, and where he's going in his own business as a businessman how all those experiences have now shaped where he wants to go, right? You just take a step back after you've consumed the information, take a step back and analyze the business structure, right? Look at the trends and what he's learned and how that shapes his advice and how that shapes his own actions. But the failure is super important. You have to just get over it, right? Because I promise you, no one's going to think about your failures as much as you are. They're thinking about themselves because we're all very self-centered. Okay, that's another reason why you don't need to worry about what other people are doing, because I promise you, they're not thinking about what you're doing. Your competition is not thinking about you. They're obsessing over their client's pain point. You should do the same thing. But failure, it's the best. I think someone said it's the best teacher for life, something like that. But the sooner you can get over failure, the better it is. Because if you know you're going to fail forward in order to grow ahead, you might embrace it a little more. It's always an opportunity to say, hey, God, how can you use me? What can I learn from this? What kind of testimony can I get from this experience? How can I witness and show to others how to forgive, how to be more patient, how to be more kind, how to be more loving, how to be more giving, whatever the lesson is in the failure, there's an opportunity there, right? To be an example for others and a witness for what God can do. How do you stand out in your business? That was the next question. Question number 5. And I mean, his numbers are all over the place. My numbers, I put this list together when I was working out. So they won't be exactly like his, but this is number 5 on my list, and I have the link to the actual video in the description box. How do you stand out in your business? Customization. I love this one. This goes along with what I just said, right? You go in a room with a whole bunch of other NP entrepreneurs who started a med spa. Okay, well, how are you going to customize your services when everyone's doing Botox? Well, you look at the data, you find the gaps, find out, because look, like I said, let's take Justin, for example. If that's his target, right? And if, there's obviously people at all stages of entrepreneurship who listen to him, who buy his products, use his services. But if you're looking at the trends and you're looking on what's on the podcast, that's just one of his services is the podcast. He has other services. So in all those other offers, he might be servicing a different level of entrepreneur, right? Because he has like an inner circle. I would imagine, and that's a high ticket offer, right? I would imagine the people attracted to that are at a different point than the people who are calling for consultation calls publicly, right? So customization. You go in that room, you see everybody's doing Botox, you go read the data, you find out where the industry's going, right? We're going to talk about this in a second. You find out where those gaps are. It's so easy to find the gaps if all you do is take the time to read the research, learn the business and the industry. So the industry, or who are the key players? Who are the businesses? Where have they come? Where are they going? What are they doing? What are the problems? What are the complaints? What drives the money one way or another? Where is the growth market? Right? And then you just fill those gaps. And so customization, personalization, we see that in medicine, right? They're always talking about how the future of medicine is personalization. That's why we have so much genetics and epigenetics coming in. Instead of saying, look, this is what we give everyone, we're going to, run these tests, do these diagnostics, and we're going to give you a script that fits you, right? Your makeup. And so you can do that in your business. So from customization to finding out, okay, we both do Botox, right? We both have a med spa, but what are they doing that I can do differently, or I can do that they're not doing? Because if I'm talking to you, I'm automatically not talking to them. You cannot talk to everyone, right? And when you're trying to figure out what business should you start, you got to find out who your target audience is. This is what we're going to talk about next week. It's not everyone. The wrong answer is always going to be everyone. Because if you try to help everyone, you end up helping no one, right? People want to know that you're talking to them. When you do your marketing, you need to know how to talk to your audience. And so once you know who your audience is, you'll be able to customize your services and your offers to them because they're going to tell you what they need. So I think that's an easy one. But how to stand out in business? Learn the business, identify some gaps, and get an understanding from people who are in there, where it's going, and see if you can't try to get there too. How do you become great at sales? Okay, he says authenticity is impossible to replicate. So that's what his answer was. What I think is important for NP entrepreneurs is one, to have an appreciation for sales. So, one thing we do is we get in, we're so focused on the patient care and not so much even the business side. Even in that episode that I'm talking about with Justin that I listened to today, she was explaining some of the problems that she's having, and she was like, one of my problems is I'm just too nice. Uh, and that goes along with this idea that people in business can't be nice, or that people in business are not kind or compassionate or caring. Two things can be true, right? You can have a business, you can be an entrepreneur and still care about the people. What's missing is, you're so focused on getting a training to learn how to do aesthetics. 10,000 people can learn how to pick up a syringe and inject it, right? You're focused on if it's going to be telehealth or brick and mortar, the color scheme, the logo, what platform you're going to do your website in. But I don't hear anybody talking about how to become better at sales, right? Because it's like, oh, I can't remember what title I picked for this. I think one of them, I think it's the next one, is how to not be salesy or pushy or something for the next video. But that's like a thing that nurses and nurse practitioners are afraid of, right? Or even women, actually. I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be salesy, because you're thinking of one salesperson, which is the car salesman, right? Tell me if I'm wrong. But people are selling you all the time. They're selling you every day. You are selling your patient. I went on a whole spiel at the beginning of the video on how you're selling you as a clinician, as their clinician for the moment. You're selling that you understand what's going on, and that based on that understanding, you've come to the right diagnosis, or a list of diagnoses that you're going to rule in or rule out, that you have chosen the right treatment, and that this is the right one for them, and that when the best time is to come back and reevaluate that. You're selling that. You're selling your confidence. You're selling your clinical skill set, and you're selling your intellectual property. You just don't know it. And so the patient recognizes that. They wouldn't say you're a salesperson, but if you listen to them closely enough and they describe their experience from one clinician to another, you're going to hear very similar feedback that people give businesses when they rate restaurants, hotels, whatever. So I would encourage you that one thing I think that hurts NPs and entrepreneurs and nurses a lot is that there's a lot of opportunities to make money. And so when we put our schedule together, when we look at opportunities, we tend to chase the dollar, right? So we say yes to this and yes to that, but all it does is take away those 24 hours that we have to grow our business, to continue to be creative, and to hone in on our vision, to make sure we understand how to communicate it. Because you can have the vision, you can be really confident and assured that you understand what it is, but if you can't communicate that vision, it's going to go nowhere. It's going to go nowhere. And if you spend all your time working, saying yes to every opportunity, every promotion, you're not going to have energy or motivation. That what we talked about, motivation and consistency. You're not going to have the energy to do either one of those, and so your business isn't going to go anywhere. So yes, there's opportunities every day, but they're not an opportunity if they get in the way of you being able to do what you want to do, get where you're trying to go. And so I think that's the biggest thing that hurts us, is the fact that we can work over here 3 days a week, go over there 2 times, two a month there, 1 here, PRN. People are seeing patients. They're doing, some leadership management over there. They run over here and do a clinical. They're precepting, right? It's all over the place. And then we wonder why our business isn't going anywhere. And the one thing we're not spending time on is learning the art of sales. It's just like our clinical practice. It's an art. Okay. How do we start a business? We kind of covered this. He said, just start selling something. It could be anything. Just some of it's just to prove to you that you can and you want to, because you can think you want to do this thing because someone told you should. And that goes back to what I said. Not everybody's really cut out to be an entrepreneur, right? I've recognized that. And there are other ways, because, this whole idea is like some freedom, some generational wealth. There are other ways that you can invest your money beyond that business and investing side without actually having to run a business, right? And that's a conversation for another day. But you can still achieve financial freedom and be a good stewardship of wealth without necessarily owning your own business. So that's important too. So start selling something if you're just for yourself, just to convince yourself you can. And then all these concepts that you're hearing, if you've never done them before, will start to make sense. You'll have a place to put them. You'll have a point of reference and context. You'll actually get why everybody's making videos about it. Just get out there and start selling something. And that will help you start to identify where you want to be, who's your target, what can you help them with, what are the different ways you can help, because there are different ways you can help. Do you want to help people every day of the year, or do you only want to help them sometimes of the year? This will help create questions for you. Questions are super important. Always want to be formulating new questions, but also answering them. Okay, number 8, how do you know if you have a good product? So he said you want to be able to provide a fanatical customer experience. To me, that's your irresistible offer, right? The more you know your audience, your target, and that pain problem, when you understand, hey, what is this? What would it mean to you to lose weight? What would it mean to you to have your acne cleared up? How long have you been dealing with this? What would you be willing to pay for a solution? Their answer is your question, right? What are you going to sell? They're going to tell you what to sell because they're going to tell you what they're looking for. Do they want a 10-step plan, or they want something that's all in one bottle? They're going to tell you. You say, how much should I charge? They're going to tell you. What's it worth to you to have your acne clear? They're going to tell you. And then how long have you been dealing with this, right? So, what would you be willing to pay if I could help you over the course of 8 weeks? They're going to tell you that, right? And so that's the irresistible offer. It's going to come from your relationship with them, from understanding them. If you're part of the target audience, then you might have really good insight. But if you're not, then you want to become part of that community, or invite someone over, have them sit down and just give them a chance to talk. And they're going to tell you, or just go listen, go where they are and just listen to them, right? I told you every day in the private groups, the same questions they're asked every day, even on Justin's podcast, every single day. They're the same question. Okay, does success make all your problems go away? He says no. Great wealth amplifies who you are right now. If you're not already happy, if you're not already clear of who you are, where you're trying to go, why you're here, wealth and success are not going to answer that for you. They're just going to amplify all these feelings that you already have. Number 10, biggest piece of advice for entrepreneurs, which I need to take this advice myself, is stay hyper-focused. Even Rachel Rodgers did a video this week talking about that. And, there's 2 teams, right? You have the people who embrace the hyper, what do you call it? Multi-hyphenate, right? Those of us who do multiple things. And I've tried to work myself out of doing multiple things. I gave up the podcast. It's run by, the producer. I'm just the talent. And every week we're working so that I can do even less and less over there, so that I can just focus all on this. And I'm streamlining even her daily task so she can be more available on this side. And we're working to build up our team. So even there, I'm taking my own advice. And because we're nurses, because we can do all the things, because as an entrepreneur, an early entrepreneur, time and capital are limited. Sometimes we find that we have to do all the things, but we really don't want to do that, right? And I'm hopeful that through the course of this channel, my own journey, that we're able to create a community and a system, a framework for all of us, so that we can come out the gate learning how to make those irresistible offers and identify clients where we can sell higher ticket offers sooner, so that we can do less much faster and we can stay hyper focused. 11, biggest mistake about money. Love this one. No such thing as easy money. There's people in the chat every day asking, what's the quickest way, the fastest way, the easiest certification? It's just like, these are real questions from healthcare providers. What is it? And there's no such thing as easy money or passive income. Absolutely. Just like the work-life balance, right? Nothing's passive. It might be less work, less time, less in-personness, but everything requires management. So if you're not going to be the one managing it, someone else is managing it, you're managing them, right? So passive is relative to other things. So there's that. And then no such thing as easy money. Yeah, if you're, what I know, that when I used to work in Georgetown and I would drive through those neighborhoods, it dawned on me one day. I looked at those houses and I said, you know what? to get in that house, you have to work really hard. And I was thinking, like, what I was doing, I was like, it's going to take a whole lot more than what I'm doing to get into that. And that it changed, it made my dreams bigger. It made me dream a lot bigger when I realized that. But yeah, no such thing as easy money or passive income. But there can be smart ways to earn money, but even more strategic ways to keep that money, right? Biggest self investment, learning how to communicate. Oh, one of the biggest challenges I have at the moment is learning how to communicate and outside of business, outside of what I do professionally, right? That doesn't always translate very well personally, and just being transparent there. But I think just in life, right? Communication is an art that has to be perfected. It has to always be something we're working on. Perfected, not necessarily mean that you're, at some point you're going to perfect it, but that you're always striving in that direction. And that communication really depends on who you're speaking to, right? Just like our client's going to tell us what they want from us, the people in our life are going to tell us if the way we're communicating is the way we intended it to or not, right? And so that's an area I'm working on with assistance. And I think once I get my therapist, I think that's going to help so much. Um, so yes, I'm looking forward to that. So yes, learning how, there's books, I think books are there's podcasts, there's resources, and they're just asking for feedback. So for me, when he asked this question, that's the first thing I thought of for us. I remember when I used to work in the hospital, and you always get these it was peer feedback, right? And they really didn't help me. They only told me all the things that people thought I did right, which is good, but even I know I could have done a lot. I could have shown up sooner. I could have shorter reports. Like there were things I was waiting for people to say. And once they said it, it's like, okay, now I'll do it. But no one ever said it. And for me, I can't grow if you don't tell me what I need to know. But also we have to be receptive to that feedback, which, I'm working on doing a lot better job. And so I can't tell you to do something if I'm not willing to work on it myself. So just know we're in the trenches together when it comes to that. 13, and then we have one more after that. How to manage pressure that comes with success. Oh, so someone said, pressure is a privilege of success. That's almost like the Bible verse. Oh man. With great responsibility, with great reward comes great responsibility. You know that one? That's what that's how this resonates with me. Now, I will say that when it comes to being an entrepreneur, there is real pressure, right? Your numbers grow, the opportunities grow. You have a big idea and you want to implement it, and I think, whew, I'm out here. Like there's no turning back, and you can feel some of that, right? When you're in your little world and no one's really doing it, following you or getting any feedback. On one hand, you're just waiting for that day to come, right? But when it comes, you're like, ooh, there's really people out here looking at me. And that's where your community becomes so important. That pressure is a real thing, from yourself, from the people around you, and just recognize it's a privilege, right? And so when you're in a position of privilege and opportunity, use that platform to pave a way for others, speak up for those who aren't in the room, and to thank those who helped you get there. And then sleep on it. That is an actionable piece of advice. I use myself all the time. Hey, let me sleep on it. People respect that. And yeah, that sleep could be 24 hours. It could be until Sunday. It could be a week. It could be, hey, after this intensive 8-week business coaching program. But it's always good to have something like that in your pocket, like words that you can use. Like I always say, even in nursing school, right? You learn high blood pressure is bad, but you don't always, the book tells you it's bad, they give you the numbers, but you don't always know how to apply that in practice to your patient when you're trying to communicate. And so that's why it helps to be in community, to be with people who are a little bit ahead of you, so you're not the smartest person in the room. And sometimes little things like, hey, just tell them to sleep on it. Oh, that words are so important. So having things like that in the back of your pocket can really help you through this journey. Last one, how to become a great leader. So he brought up an example about Jesus in the Bible and how instead of teaching people the parables, he showed them those parables. And the Bible has a lot of great stories about how to engage your audience. And most people want to be led; they don't want to be managed. And I think that's so true. I do think, there's always this topic of conversation. We had to write a paper about it in MP school on the difference between leaders and managers. Um, And you need both, right? You need people who are those daily operations, task driven, check all the boxes. And you need people who have a big vision. Like once you check all these boxes, what does it amount to? What does it lead to? So I think both people are very important. But I think that's the other thing. So if as entrepreneurs, NP entrepreneurs, if we focus on the patient and all the things that we see as an employee, the patient, the building, the website, the services, but we don't see and don't invest in, what was I saying? How to be a salesperson, right? How to be caring and profitable. That's a good title. And how to be a leader. I don't know. I don't feel that we see ourselves as leaders, but we are. And what that means when it comes to leadership, particularly in nursing, that conversation about leadership tends to be to people in leadership positions, right? Your CNO, your CEO. Now, once we own a business, we will say, "Oh, we're the CEO of the business," even if we're still working in the business. It's kind of like saying you own your house, even though you still have 30-year mortgage on the books, right? You don't really own anything but debt. It's kind of that use of words. But when it comes to leadership and just having the title doesn't necessarily mean you're filling the shoes. But by stepping into the shoes, now you're in a position to be a great leader. And what does that mean? So depending on where you are on your journey, particularly if you're still on the couch and deciding if you want to get into this and you're just trying to find one thing to sell, those are some great ways to spend your time, right? Where you're waiting for someone to hire you, get your first job in dermatology, teach you everything you want to know, all those things that you guys say. This is a great time to learn about leadership, communication, and the art of selling. I want to thank you for watching. Like I anticipated, I didn't make my cutoff at around 30 minutes. So I'll have to go do this interview for the Male Initiative podcast. We're going to be talking about kind of that transition into from practice to academia and teaching with a NP out here. She's a doctorate. She has her doctorate. Actually, I don't think she's an NP. But she does have her doctorate. She's out here in Dallas, actually. So I'm going to run over there and do that interview with her. And depending on when that ends, I'll be back in an hour to film our next one for Batch Content Day. But yeah, I just want to thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if you found any of these tips helpful to you. Down there, you'll also find the link to the Mahogany Dermatology blog, the playlist on how to get your first job in dermatology, the Mahogany Dermatology shop, where you can find my ebooks on how to make that transition from bedside to dermatology. It's a step-by-step guide for you, and my NP starter kit. You'll find the link to Robert's video, link to register for diversity in dermatology. At the time of this filming, we are 1 month away. I can't wait to see you all in Louisville. It's going to be a great time. Always love getting back together with my diversity in dermatology friends and family, and just looking to have a good time. And yeah, I think that's all I have for now. Yeah, I was going to show off my skincare products. So when you come back next time, that's what we'll talk about from La Roche, their new Malibu line. Yeah, let me get off and go greet my guests for the podcast. Thank you for watching. I see you're here. You didn't say anything. I won't charge you this time, but next time there'll be an admission fee for those who don't speak up. But thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.